Welcome back to Fresh Economic Thinking with Cameron Murray and regular co-host Jonathan Gadir. Welcome back, Jonathan.
Thanks, Cameron. Good to be back.
You've been browsing the internet recently, and what have you noticed that we should talk about this week?
Well, these days, half the time, if you need decent search results from Google, you need to put in your search terms plus the word Reddit so that you can get, forum, basically, discussions on the Reddit forum on whatever topic it is you're searching. It's kind of become something that I do because Google search is so bad now. Otherwise,
you don't just use AI to tell you what everyone's saying on Reddit?
Sometimes.
Yeah, great.
But yeah, I mean, I just rather get the exact thing rather than a vague approximation of the thing. Yeah, silly me. I want like accuracy and to know who wrote something.
But you're one of those details people, right?
Yeah. But I think what's interesting, like one of the forums I sort of lurk on sometimes is the Reddit forum AusFinance, which is for all matters to do with finance in Australia. Usually popular topics include housing, bank accounts, superannuation, all of your favorites, taxation stuff, usually really good quality responses. But also something I've noticed is that, like most Reddit threads, AusFinance has developed a very strong and rigid kind of set of conventional wisdoms based on the prejudices of the people who are like the most vocal contributors.
Geez, that does sound like reality replicated on Reddit. Isn't that funny?
But
so,
like,
what's the
for example,
conventional wisdom? Yeah.
Well, I mean, just to give you an example, like, let's say you look at the Bitcoin Reddit thread, or what do you call it, subreddit or whatever. You'll just find the conventional wisdom to me as an outsider coming in and looking at it is just delusional. Like, it's just like this kind of rah-rah, like, where it's half the price it was 6 months ago, but this is the opportunity. This is what the smart people do. Smart people buy and hold, never sell, buy and hold, buy and hold. And like, it's only the dumb people and the idiots who panic. And like, there's this kind of like conventional wisdom that sounds like extremely cult-like. But okay, Bitcoin, okay, it attracts a certain.
So you're basically saying in that subreddit, the conventional wisdom is just wild, but that's what's normal there.
Well, it's very rigid, like it's very dogmatic. It may have a basis to it, but like there's very little dissent,
Yeah, fair enough.
So, and then, so when you look at AusFinance, you see one of the topics that comes up, again and again, is superannuation. People ask questions, people, proffer ideas, and there's a very strong conventional wisdom, which is that it's a great thing. Australian superannuation is the best. No one would save anything if they weren't forced to. This is like the like people who criticize it and don't see the benefit of it are idiots. Blah blah blah. Okay, so I thought, this is a good topic for Cameron to discuss. And I sort of picked one interesting post from a couple of weeks ago, which is basically like, well, yeah. Do you want to get into that, or do you have other things on thread? Because
no, let's start there. But you've basically got me onto we should have a Reddit's reaction. I know that reactions videos are all the rage with the influencers these days. So why don't we do a bit of a Reddit's reaction and start with your super AusFinance, with the context in mind that every subreddit is just this cultural anomaly of loudmouthed people who've self-selected into this subreddit. So what did you stumble across?
People who are interested enough to spend time, what do you call it? Keyboard warriors, being keyboard warriors. So here we go. I'll go to my saved post about super, and it's basically like this. The heading is "Seeing an increase in negative sentiment against superannuation. Why?" I'm seeing a lot of negative sentiment, especially from young people. I hear it in person and see it online. There are a few older women and men here who ravage their super ASAP through that,
So just for
though just for
funsies.
yeah, just for funsies. Anecdotally, every young person in my workplace is against super. They just want the money instead and talk about planning retirement fund themselves. And the common response against super seems to always be, "You might die and not get to use it." A hollow gamble, I think? Question mark. And this is all irrespective of additional contributions. All right. So I just picked some responses.
I did not write that, by the way. I have a Reddit profile because I did an Ask Me Anything once, but that's the only thing I've done. So yeah, what did people make of that? Because that's something I would say.
I think I just want to preface this by saying, like, every discussion on AusFinance will eventually, at some point, come to like, well, it depends what you value, and you should always remember to, you know, not just not forget to live your life, blah 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 blah, and everyone goes, oh yeah, of course, you should always like, make sure you don't, do only prioritize the far future, and you should definitely, live your
Yeah.
life. And then they go back to the 95% conventional wisdom, which is you've got to, save like this and max out your super like that, and
Yeah.
it just goes back to the
And
goes back
so was this,
um,
was this subreddit any different, this thread,
no.
than what you noticed,
Well,
or what
yeah, like,
jumped out?
essentially, I'm interested in your responses because they do
Ah,
reflect, I think, very common views, including some things I've asked you in the past. So here we go. My boss is like this. She keeps saying her plan is to never retire. And I keep saying, okay, but shouldn't you plan for physical and mental decline? Even if you work until you die, you'll be slower, your output will be lower. Having a financial cushion so you don't have to produce the same amount of work each week in your 80s that you did in your 40s makes sense.
mm-hmm,
Then you can comment after I read a few.
mm-hmm.
Um, um, Young people should have to have a mandatory stint working at a bowls club to see their future on a pension. I did during uni, and nothing terrified me more into planning retirement than seeing broke old people at the bowls club.
Oh,
Um,
that's interesting because uh, I I mean, what's better than being outside in the sun with all your mates drinking in the daytime and having afternoon naps? I mean, but anyway, carry on.
um, no, but seriously, I think like that probably captured a good sort of
Okay.
70% of the responses. But like there's like I understand that. Like you don't like to see poor old people who can't really enjoy
Yeah.
their the last years of their
Yeah.
life. Um,
So I think this is what's my response. Yeah, I don't like seeing poor old people. And in fact, who was it? He was a 19th century German king who solved old age poverty with the first national pension. Bismarck, is Bismarck a German king from the
yeah,
1900s?
yeah, 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 yeah.
He had these retired soldiers and said, we're going to have this national pension system. And he basically was the first person to just say, if we don't want poor old people, we'll just give them money and then they can just buy food and they won't be begging on the street and in poverty because they'd served the king, served the realm, and they're deserving. And of course, in the 20th century, just about every rich country has copied this to some degree. And once you hit a certain age, you get a minimum amount of money because we don't like seeing poor old people. And you get free healthcare in most countries too. So that's great. Um, so we've kind of solved old age poverty. And now people are going, I want to solve some extra additional thing. And I'm not sure what that is because um, if you look at people's survey results of their financial security and you survey young and old, the people who feel most financially secure are the elderly. Even those on the pension feel more financially secure than young working families, especially with single parents. And so you've got this bizarre situation that we're kind of solving the problem of old age poverty that hasn't existed for over 100 years. And we're creating a new problem, which is working age, family age poverty instead by deferring all this income you're earning during those young years and not letting you spend it when you're young and you need it. And so your typical Your typical pensioner who's paid off their house is both richer and has a higher per person income than sort of your average mid-20s couple starting a
Well,
family.
let's just pause there. What if they're a pensioner renting in the
Yeah.
private rental market?
Well, we should definitely, well, I think we should just give them places to live for free. Um, but we do give rent assistance. And so renting
Yeah.
pensioners are definitely a separate group, but there's only sort of 12 or 15% of pensioners are in that. So it's a very small minority. And what's most interesting is super is not going to save these people. The people who retire poor and don't own houses are those who had disrupted work lives, were stay-at-home parents while the other spouse worked and then maybe died or left them with nothing, and they had never had a chance to accumulate super or buy their own house. And so if that's your problem, superannuation, by deferring your lifetime income that didn't exist for these people, otherwise they'd have a house and money, is not going to solve it. You need to transfer from other people to those people, which is what the age pension does. Now, if we look at the super system, though, so basically the super system takes money from everyone when they're poor and young, right? Typically, you're not you're not sort of exceeding your expected income in retirement until you're in your 40s, right? The typical person, right? So I'm in my early 40s, and I'll probably have more money still to spend when I'm 65 in 21 years. And yet I'm still putting more compulsorily to make me even richer in that future point, right? My kids are
But
grown up.
what? So
My
yeah.
eldest has finished school.
Why do you say that? Why do you say that? Like, why do you
What
say that you will be
richer?
richer at 65? Like, let's say you're not able to work anymore at that
Yeah.
age.
Well, wealth
Why would you?
accumulates, right? So anything I've put aside, whether it's buying a house or saving anything, grows in
Yeah.
value over time.
But
So
is the point
on
that this
average,
Reddit post is making that people don't put anything aside
well,
because
this is the
they're
thing.
blue collar workers, blah blah blah. They don't earn that much.
Some people do and some don't, right? So let me lay it out a bit more. Your typical person is the richest they'll ever be in their life the day before they're allowed to get their super, right? So hang on a minute. You're telling me I'm allowed to take money from when I'm poor and give it to myself later when I'm rich. That's the opposite of what we want, right? So that's the main thing. On average, super takes money from when you're poor so you can have more when you're already rich and insured by the state income insurance system, the pension. So that's sort of a main thing. Secondly, in terms of the distribution across people, so I've just looked at the distribution of one individual over time. Now, if we're looking at the distribution across people, most super is owned by people who would never be on the age pension. So if you took super and said, on average, what does a dollar in super do? What does your typical average dollar that's in the super system do? You would say, oh, it minimizes taxes for someone who would have otherwise held this asset outside of super. That's the average. There is a small swathe of people in the middle who might not have saved and might have more money and get the part pension for a while before they get the full pension. And these are the people that say, oh, if I didn't have super, I'd have nothing. I'm like, yeah, you wouldn't have had nothing. Because once you're 55 and you're earning a lot, you can probably save a bit over 10 years, right? Um, and you've been 10% poorer for your whole life up until that point. So there's this middle slither of people who, yeah, you get them off the pension into the part pension or off the part pension. And Treasury has made forecasts for years showing how small that group is. And then you have the bottom people, right? The people that would never save. And those people typically don't get much super over their life because they work sporadically, part time, casually. They have health issues and they withdraw their super. It's not doing anything for them anyway. So most super is already rich people who just change the structure in which they save money and invest to the tax advantage super. There's a slither in the middle, which is where you get that sort of culture of Reddit culture of support. And then there's the people that we tell stories about super helping that it doesn't actually help. So that's kind of my story. And I always like to, you know, remind people that Noel Whitaker, you know, that guy, the finance editor, you write letters to him about how do I get the pension and what should I do with my money. This guy has a full-time job writing in the newspaper, explaining to old people how to get on the age pension because people love it so much. Right? He's like, get rid of all your assets so you can get on the age pension because there's nothing better than the age pension. In fact, my mum lives in a retirement village and he's been going on. Everyone loves the age pension. She said, oh, my accountant said it doesn't matter what I spend because I'll just get the age pension. If I spend too much, I'll get more age pension. I'm like,
Yeah.
hang on a minute. You're telling me everyone loves it. It solves every problem. And yet we have a cultural obsession about resolving the problem. And I can only think it's because a lot of people get some tax advantaged savings for savings they would have made anyway. So that's sort of my rant.
They might be sad about something else about old age that they're displacing, and they're displacing that sadness onto this idea that they're poor.
Oh,
Whereas in fact, what they're sad about is a bunch of other things like social isolation or health problems. And you know what I mean? Like they're actually saying, oh, these people are miserable because they're poor. And maybe that, not having a lot of money, of course, as a blue collar person, after you finish your working life, you're not going to have a lot of money, but maybe they're sort of that set of concerns or that sadness that comes from looking at people at the bowls club is actually something a little different. Like, okay,
right.
it doesn't quite fit the economist's,
Oh, so you're
logic.
saying there's a deep psychology, there's this like fear of death, and because we've
And
rejected
decline and
mainstream religion,
ill health, yeah.
and we've rejected religion and we've replaced it with super. So long as I have super, so long as I pray to God and I'm faithful, I'll be okay when I'm old. And then these people are saying, as long as I have super and I pray to the superannuation gods of compound interest, I'll be okay. I mean, I buy it.
Well, you've extended my observation, and yes, that sounds very interesting. My observation was simply that the sadness that makes him want to plan for retirement is actually a sadness of, yeah, but what you're saying, yeah, it gels with what I was kind of observing, that
But
it seems to be a sadness about decline, ill health, loneliness, whatever, that they're hanging out at the bowling club because, they've lost their partner, or, what I mean, whatever it is.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Look,
Mm.
I definitely think there's that, but let me refer to some data again about what people actually do when they can get their super.
Yeah.
Most people just take it all out of super. Literally, they go, "What day can I get super on Friday? Great, I'll withdraw it.
Mm.
300K, take it out,
And then what
get the car."
happens?
They usually pay off any loans they've got, fix the car, go on holidays, or renovate the house, or give it to family. So we've got
Family,
these
yeah.
surveys of what people do with super.
Uh-huh.
When they take a lump sum withdrawal, and it's pay off debt, give it to families, and boats, cars, housing, repairs,
Is there any
and
group of people
renovation.
for whom it doesn't make sense to do that because they want to be like they don't want to be living on the pension because it would be lower than some other income
Uh,
source that they could get from.
yeah, but this is the thing, right? Income and wealth is substitutable. So you can have a low income and get the pension, and your kids can just buy you a new car and stuff. Like, um, they can spend on all those large items that you would otherwise spend on, or take you on holidays with them. So
What about people
there's
who have like an investment property? Would it make more sense for them just to keep earning their money from the investment property and not get the pension?
so it depends. Let me also raise another thing is that superannuation is taxed. Like there's an inheritance tax on superannuation, but not on other assets. So a lot of people, once they get to retirement age and can access this super, are very careful about not having too much left if they die suddenly. Because unless you have a dependent child in your house, if you don't, or a dependent spouse, the government's going to tax that superannuation, but they wouldn't tax the assets. Um, death. I'm just googling it. Wouldn't tax the assets if it was outside of superannuation. So it's called the superannuation death benefits tax, and if it's non-dependents, it's 17%. And if the super comes from an untaxed fund, it could be up to 32%. So the smartest thing to do, okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to get to whatever the reservation age when I can get super is. I'm going to take all the money out and I'm going to give it to the kids to help them pay off their house. And then I'm going to live on the pension. And if I need to go on holidays, buy a car, fix the house, I'm going to get them to do it. Like,
Yeah.
why would I do anything else? Why would I
Okay.
keep it and then die suddenly and pay tax before my kids get it? Why wouldn't I help them when they're young? Anyway, that's my attitude to the whole
Yeah.
thing, and it's
Yeah. Sorry, I got diverted onto deep and meaningful stuff. Here's another. Here's another Reddit comment. This is from
yeah.
the. I'm going to take the other people who have commented from the other angle. So in response to the guy, the bowling club, you should go visit. Every young person should have to have a mandatory stint working the bowls club. The response to that guy is, or a hospital where you see that both groups, I don't know what he means by both groups, young and old, both groups can die at any age, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s plus, so they remember it's also important to live now.
Yeah.
Yes, you can live now. Yes, you can live. This is another response. You can live now without being hedonistic. And come on, we're only talking about. I think they mean talking about investing a tiny 12% of your income. Realistically, we're only living longer and longer. Saying we can die whenever is just a dumb coping mechanism to not grow up.
I
Well,
mean, look, this is the trade-off. This is why we all optimize differently. Some people
yeah.
save a lot
Some
and
people,
die inadvertently, and some people don't save and live forever.
some
Like,
people, some people want to risk that, and some people don't want to risk that.
look,
Um,
I,
a
I've got
lot of,
a I've got a grandmother-in-law who's 101 and
mhm.
has outlived three of her four children, and she's still kicking on saving. And I'm like, well, I don't think super changes her decisions. I'm sure she would rather have less now and have, you know, spent more on her children and grandchildren and great grandchildren.
Yeah.
I
And then another response
yeah.
here. Oh, yeah, go on. Sorry.
I just do people on their deathbed go, oh, thank God I had more super, or do they say, gee, I wish I had, lived my life differently when my kids were young, or whatever
Mm.
the case may be.
Yeah. A lot of young people, rightly, don't trust the government not to change the rules by the time of their retirement. It makes sense too. Late stage capitalism and super is just sitting there for the government to claim. I don't know why that phrase is this is a bit weird. More than likely, make it subject to income tax in the amount you withdraw per year. I think this is very, very likely. And then there was a whole bunch of other comments, people saying, yeah, of course, like there's no guarantee that millennials are going to be, able to use the super. Like the government's not going to dip into it or tax it more, or that the stock market's not going to, just crash. And you know what I mean? Like people saying, and I really do think that there's especially in Australian finance Reddit, in the Australian finance Reddit, this very strong bias that everything is going to be the same tomorrow as it is today. Like this idea
Ah,
that
yeah.
the essential underpinnings are just going to continue the way they are, because this country obviously hasn't had the
Mm,
disruption that Europe had in the 20th century. So it's hard for Australians, I think, to imagine that like everything can get disrupted. Although maybe COVID did help some of these people, and some of these comments are influenced a bit by the fact that we had this disruption, and people are going,
yeah.
things can just change overnight. This idea
Yep.
that everything's going to be the same for the next 40 years,
Yeah.
is not right.
No, I think that's true. I think there's yeah, anything could happen, as you say. The next war,
Yeah.
is politics getting more or less unpredictable? I don't know, but um the late stage capitalism, I don't know. That sounds like an empty phrase that people, like to
Well, it
get
has a
up.
meaning. It has a
Does it?
meaning in Marxist
Oh,
political economy, but it just didn't make sense
no,
in
okay.
that sentence.
So I think the interesting thing is this whole idea of the government will raid super or will use the money for things, but remember, there's no money there really. It's not just like a pile of cash. It's not Scrooge McDuck swimming around in cash. It's just a representation of claims on ownership of a variety of assets in the economy that go up and down in value as other people exchange them. And so during COVID, during the financial crisis, the whole super system was worth, whatever it was worth at the time, 1 point something trillion, went down in value 20% in a year and took years to recover. it's not like it's just sitting there. It's not like a big um, Scrooge McDuck vault full of cash. It's just a representation of future claims. And like Elon Musk, right? He became the world's richest man last week because of the value of the shares in SpaceX. But then, and then went up 20%. They're like, oh, he's made more money than the second richest man in 1 week. And then it came down. Yesterday, it came down 15%. And they're like, hang on, you were saying he's lost more money than the second richest man in human history in this one day? You're like, no, this is just a representation. This number is a representation of his claim. And someone yesterday thought it was worth this, and the people trading today thought it was worth that. There is no big pile of cash there. He can burn all that cash, and he can. Well, he's got some cash now because of the public listing did raise money, but it's not all cash, right? So I think people that sort of simple thinking actually is very common both in tax debates and wealth debates, but also in this super and how we should organize retirement as well.
All right. As a light note, on a light note to sort of finish up, I know you did a search for yourself, just your own name on Reddit. I'm curious what you found. Were there any like conventional wisdoms about Cameron Murray
So
on any Reddit threads?
yeah, when you said, "Oh, I've got this Reddit thread I want to talk about," I'm like, "Oh goodness, what is going on?" Because I'll give you an example. What do economists think of Cameron Murray?
Hang on, what's this? Is this an AI
This is
search?
a Reddit search of Cameron Murray, economist.
Oh, okay, on Reddit.
According to his bio, he's an economist of some sorts with an interest in property. One thing that caught my eye was his blog post critiquing a famous method by Ed Glaser. What do other economists think of him? Here's his published paper. Great question. Very simple. First response. Cameron Murray.
What group is this? Hang on.
This is called Ask Economics.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't know anything about it. So if anyone listening knows about these subreddits, feel free to leave some comments. First comment, Cameron Murray is an absolute hack.
Okay.
And mate, here's another one. Another thread. What else? Yeah, it's basically he's right on this, but I don't like him.
On what?
Sorry. So that's one of the attitudes on, for example, this method that I've critiqued, this academic nerdy method about what the ratio of marginal to average land price means when it comes to the housing lot sizes. And they go, yeah, he's right, but we don't like him.
He's not the right kind of person.
He's not the right, yeah. Which is funny because, if you got all these subreddits, anyone who's not part of your gang, right, is almost by definition going to be a weirdo for your group. So if I'm not part of any, that's right. So what I did is I read a bunch of these Cameron Murray is a hack. And I asked ChatGPT. I said, what do people on Reddit think of the economist Cameron Murray? So let's summarize that one then. 6 different responses. Number 1, strong admirers, rare economists saying the quiet part. Oh, that's nice. Supporters see Murray as unusually willing to challenge vested interests, property developers, super funds, consultants, planners, political networks. His books, Game of Mates and Rigs, are often recommended explanations of Australia's grey corruption. Redditors cite him as a fair-go economist and praise his work on inequality, housing, superannuation, and political favouritism. Pretty good. I'll skip a few, balance that out. Number 4, professional credibility attacks. Hack, not serious. Several Reddit threads are openly dismissive. In Ask Economics and Ask AusEcon style discussions, some commentators call him a hack, least credible economist or the new Steve Keen. He is contrarian, sensationalist, or outside mainstream housing economics. Some also attack his associations, including Sustainable Australia candidacy, macro business, and alleged past social media views. Those claims are often asserted rather than carefully evidenced in the Reddit snippets I found, says Chat.
Okay.
Uh,
That's fair.
Here we go. Tone personality reactions, brilliant or irritating rage bait. They
Hmm.
react to his style. He's either irritating, sensationalist, politically motivated, or rage oriented. What's your take?
Well, if you are rage oriented, maybe try and ingratiate yourself with One Nation. They seem to be doing well, and maybe they'll implement something good if you ingratiate yourself with them. And
Yeah.
doesn't look like they're very smart, and I just despair at some of their lack of communicate, like Pauline Hanson's lack of communication skills and just general, um, in sort of lack of political savvy. But maybe if you sort of got into their circles, you could
Yeah.
fulfill these Reddit accusations,
Oh,
make
mate,
it
can you
true.
imagine? Can you imagine? Look, I'll wrap. I'll want to get back to One Nation since you raised it. But
Yeah,
the other Chat GPT summary is about the Reddit comments on superannuation and my analysis.
yeah.
And it says it's split. Supporters say Murray exposes compulsory superannuation as a subsidy to the financial sector and argue the pension is cheaper, fairer, and more efficient. Critics respond that compulsory super is globally strong, diversifies retirement savings, reduces future pension pressure, and making it optional would be naive because many people would not save, which is exactly what you found in the Oz Finance section. So, rage beta should this rage beta go talk to One Nation if they're the inevitable next government of the country?
Well, yeah, that I'm thinking they're not going to be because they're too dumb. But go on.
No, I look, I mean, I've met a few, what's his name? The Queensland dude, Malcolm Roberts. He's lovely enough. He's been a politician for a while, but like, yeah, he's all right. He's an independent thinker. We don't agree because he thinks independently, and so do I. Um, but yeah, the impression I get is it's sort of hard to be in government and keep everyone in line and actually go in a coherent direction. It's
I think the
especially
main
hard
thing
with
that
minor parties that grow quickly.
Well, the main thing actually that I want to ask you on this point, and we didn't plan this conversation, so I'll be learning what off whatever you think right now. Like it seems like Pauline has always been just like all her positions on the key economic issues are just the positions of big business, and like she hates workers. She's constantly on about how lazy people can't be fired, and how she wasn't even able to say at the press club that she thought aged care workers should get more money. She thought, well, didn't she? She responded in this weird way, like, oh, didn't they just get a pay rise? Like her positions are rage bait for people who feel economically left behind. But the people who are economically left behind are being told by her that they're lazy and shouldn't get any more money. It just is. Her positions just don't address the needs of the people who could be her constituency.
I'm 100% with you, Jonathan. And I actually think it's funny that you said, oh, I should talk to One Nation and get in their ear, right? Maybe they'll implement something. I reckon a lot of interest groups have thought the same thing, seeing the rise in the polls, right? And if they really do flip flop and just go along with the most recent idea someone gave them, that's probably not going to be terrific. And I'll give you an example. The One Nation website a month ago had a policy to tax natural gas exports, LNG exports in Australia. And it was pretty much the same as what the Greens and David Pocock have been arguing, right? Of 25% tax on exports, make the foreigners pay for our gas. We don't want to export it. We want to share that wealth rather than have the foreign mining companies basically make the extra profits when there's a war or a pandemic or whatever. And then a few weeks ago, she totally changed the gas policy. And now it's like, oh, we're not going to touch any existing assets for gas. They're going to fall under the same petroleum resources rent tax, which is very ineffectively taxing and charging for the natural resource. We're gonna contribute equity to new projects and take an ownership share, which is okay, but there's not going to be that many new projects in that many next decades, right? The gas industry is a 3.5 decade thing that's accumulated. Um, it's not really going to change anything for decades. But it's kind of what the gas industry is happy with, because she's just promised to leave, the Northwest Shelf and everything um, untaxed indefinitely, which is a complete reversal
Yeah.
of what it was the month earlier. And I just think if that's the situation we're in, 2 years is going to be too long for her to sustain the rage and get elected.
Yeah.
Because she's just going to, like, yes, all parties flip flop. And in the morning, they promise one group one thing. Oh, aged care workers deserve a pay rise. And in the afternoon, they talk to the business council and they go, oh, young people these days don't even want to work. We shouldn't give them a pay rise. Like, that's totally normal. We just notice it from a party we don't really like very much, but every party does it. I would say she is, yeah, just doing
She's
the
just
same thing, but
she's ineffective at covering it up because she's just not a good communicator.
well, people said that about Donald Trump for years, and he's been elected twice to president. They said he
Oh,
can't
no,
even
but
speak a sentence, right?
no, 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 no,
They
no, no.
did.
Donald Trump
Don't
is
you remember?
entertaining. Well, the people who said that didn't know anything. Like, he's entertaining.
Is Pauline
He's
Hanson
like,
not entertaining for people
not at
who like
all.
that
It's
name?
painful. Everyone looks at her and feels sorry for her because she can't, express anything properly.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story. I was organizing something with my mum on the phone last night, and what randomly slipped into conversation that has never entered the conversation with my mum before. Well, she goes, "What do you think of Pauline Hanson?" I'm like, "Mum, you've never mentioned Pauline Hanson in my life to me ever since she came onto the scene 30 years ago. I've never heard you say that word, and now you're saying, what do you think of her?" So the retirement village must be chatting about her, and she's clearly tapping into a vibe. It's not the vibe I have, so I don't, I kind of get some of it, but she is tapping into a vibe, the way she says things. And the people that say, "Oh, I can't stand her, she just says this nonsense," that nonsense is hitting that, reptilian, deep down
Yeah,
part of
look,
our brain somewhere, and I don't know
don't deny.
how.
Yeah, I don't deny that. There's she's an average person, blah blah blah, all that stuff. I agree with that. But you have to combine being an average person with some savviness, some calculating, political cleverness, and there's just, yeah, none of it.
Well, I don't know. Do you? We're going to find out. That's for
We're gonna
sure.
find out.
Like, this is the thing about politics. We all have our theories on what works and why, and then we all learn or ignore the lessons reality throws at us. Um,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I very much have evolved my view, and this is maybe it's an interesting place to bring it all back. To Reddit, is that you've got to try your hardest to forget the tribe and the culture of that subreddit, and just be able to abstract and think about ideas. And for politics, what you find is interesting is that tribes aren't tribes because of ideas. It's not like everyone who read Marx and wants to be a communist becomes a labor person and they're all labor because they all share the same ideas. No, 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 no. They find a social network first, and then they all start agreeing with others in their social network, wherever they originated from. So it's the social bond that creates the common ideas, not the common ideas that sort us into these social groups. Once you realize that, you realize that the political parties don't actually matter very much, because Pauline Hanson is just as likely to tax gas as the Greens, as Labor, as anyone. If the timing is right, the right ideas there, and we can get it passed. So yeah, I think ideas can jump into different tribes because the tribes are not um, about ideas; they're about social groups, and you can penetrate those social groups by pitching your idea to in a way that sort of helps them bond together. So that's sort of the way I see it.
Very wise insights there. Yeah, agree. Yeah,
You
yeah.
agree? Oh, good.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's
and
not, we've heard that from you before, so I've had time to learn to agree with you.
you've learned to agree. What
No.
about so to get back to super? Have you had what was your take before I started writing all this stuff about unwinding it? Were
Oh, it's
you
just
in the
incredibly
subreddit
boring.
culture? What was you,
No, it
or have
was
you
just
changed your
topic
view?
topic was so boring. I would have never sort of read about it or cared about it.
Yeah, right.
I, like many people, just like eyes glaze over. Like
Right.
otherwise, I would have probably done different things with the super. I didn't even know that I had like a bunch of super from my ABC days that's frozen and this and that, and a component that I could roll over. I didn't know anything.
Oh no.
um, you know, but yeah. So I mean, but like obviously getting older, you think about it a little bit more. Yeah. So, and I've obviously been significantly convinced by, like, the more you deal with the superannuation funds, the more questions you ask about, like,
Yeah.
this is a scam, like all these fees and all this, things that you
Yeah.
have no choice over. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I think that was a bit of a grand tour of the super,
Yeah.
the Reddit,
Yep.
the
Perfect.
vibes and the culture. Surprisingly, we got to talk about Pauline, and again, I think the political culture is not too different from the subreddit culture either, right? I think the One Nation is going to sort of create their own culture, just like Labor's creating their own culture. But I think the ideas can penetrate. Maybe not
Yep.
subreddits, but political parties.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was good. I'll keep an eye out on Reddit for any more abuse.
All right. Good to talk, mate.
All right.